All right, what's going on, everyone? My name is Sean. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about how I got a 78 on REG in only 20 days of studying and reviewing combined, and how you can do it too. If you're new to the channel, I make videos about the CPA exam, personal finance, cars, cooking, food, fitness, basically anything you can imagine. So if any of those video topics interest you, please consider clicking that subscribe button down below so you can stay tuned for future videos. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. I have an outline over here on the screen just to kind of keep me focused, because I do want to go in depth so you guys can see exactly how I did this. And right off the bat, I used Becker to study for this exam, but if you're not using Becker, it's okay. A lot of these tips will still apply to any of the study materials you're using. Although I can't speak specifically to that review material, but these are just general tips. So hopefully you stay tuned throughout the video and these tips will help you. Okay, so this video was actually really hard for me to film. I've tried about 3 to 4 times now, and I just haven't been able to articulate what I want to say and really relay what was going through my head when I was trying to take this exam and study for it in such a short window of time. So I'm going to do my best. I'm going to try and provide some background right now. That way you have a general idea of what I was going through when I was trying to take this exam, and hopefully you can't relate, because that would mean you're also kind of struggling. But that way you just know where I'm coming from, and that way if you're in a shitty situation right now, you can see that you can do it as well. So number one, I basically had 4 things I was struggling with when trying to take this. The first one was a really big time crunch. So I started work on October 3rd, and I needed to get that exam done. I wanted to get it done by October 1st, and that was the first date of the Q4 testing window for 2019. So which also sucked because I had to wait over a month just to see my exam score, but I got it back, I passed, we're all good. So first struggle, time crunch. I had 30 days total to study for this exam, and I didn't really want to study on weekends because that was the only time I could spend with the people I would ignore all week. So I really wanted to make it a priority to see everyone on the weekends. Now, the second issue I struggled with is I didn't have a good foundation in tax, and as you guys know, REG is very heavily focused on tax. There is a portion on business law, but I was confident with that I'd be okay. The tax portion was the only one that I was more concerned about, because it makes up 80% of the test. So didn't have a good foundation in tax because the class I took in college just wasn't that great. Now, the third issue was I was trying to move throughout this whole process. So I moved 65 miles away from my childhood home, and the whole process of moving out from that home was hard on me, just because moving out from my family, but also because I actually had to find the house myself, because both of my roommates, one was in tax busy season and the other one lived in a different state, so they couldn't really help much. The fourth and final struggle I was going through is burnout, and I'll talk about this later in the video, but I was so mentally burned out. It was so hard for me to focus and stay motivated through this test. I really struggled with that, and I think it hindered a lot of my studying to where I wasn't fully focused, and I definitely could have done a better job at some point. But I did make a video about motivation, and I'll link that down below. I think it's a really good video. It's only like 10 or 12 minutes long, so just put it on double speed if you want to get through it real quick. But I think there are some key tips in there that'll really help you stay motivated if you are feeling that burnout. But yeah, those are the 4 things I struggled with. So let's get into the actual video. I'm going to start off with my actual studying process. I'll do a quick overview of how I got over that burnout that I was facing, and then I'll share kind of my study plan, how I got through it so quickly. And then I'll talk about just a couple other things, just tips and tricks to cap this all off and make sure that you guys are well prepared to pass this exam too. Okay, so let's start going over the study process. I used Becker, and I think realistically, all you need in order to pass this exam is the very basic package that Becker offers. I think all the other extra shit that they try and sell you on is a complete waste of money. So I only used Becker's online lectures and like the online textbook that they give you. I didn't use the physical textbooks. I didn't use any flashcards, any of the online class sessions. I didn't use any of that. Everything was self-study. So here's my study plan. Basically what I would do is I started on R1, M1, and I opened up the first lecture. I read through the entire lecture, just start to finish, I don't watch any of the videos. And then in order to hit that 100% progress bar at the end, I just click at the very bottom line. On the bottom right, you can advance the video ahead and it'll skip through and mark the section completed. Now, I did read every single section and I took notes on any sections that I felt that I wouldn't be able to remember or that I felt were really important and just wanted to reinforce in my mind. And when I say I took notes, I did not handwrite the notes. I wrote them out in Google Docs. That way I could search them afterwards. So let's think about this real quick. When it comes time to review your exam and you need to think about a very specific topic that you might have screwed up on in your multiple choice, but you can't remember what chapter it's in, it's going to be much more difficult for you to thumb through all your handwritten notes than it would be for you to just do Control F on your computer and search through your 100-page document of notes. So keep that in mind. I would highly suggest typing out your notes as compared to handwriting them. It also uses less paper. It's more environmentally friendly. There's a lot of plus sides, and it's a lot more organized. Now, after I did my lectures, I went through and did all of the skills practice. I think a lot of people ask this question. They say, do you think the skills practice are worth it? Personally, I think yes. Although it's not stuff that you're going to see on the exam necessarily, it reinforces what you learned in a lecture and it'll help prepare you for the multiple choice questions that are coming next. Additionally, the skills practices, they usually say 25 to 30 minutes to complete. I don't think I've ever spent more than 10 minutes on one, and usually it's more along the lines of 2 to 3 minutes, and I think a lot of you will be in the same boat on that. All right, so now that you've gotten through the lecture and the skills practice, you're gonna do the multiple choice for that specific module. And we're still on R1, M1. Now, the multiple choice, you're most likely gonna get 50 to 60% on every single module, and don't feel bad. Everyone does the same. Everyone does absolutely horrible on the multiple choice a majority of the time. Now, when you hit 70s and 80s, be really proud of yourself because that's a really good accomplishment, and that means you'll only have to go through a couple questions in order to move on to the next module. So don't beat yourself up if you only get 50 to 60 on the module. Anything that you get wrong, make sure you read the answer and the explanation for it as to why it's right and commit that to memory and really try and understand why you got the question wrong and why the correct answer is what it is. That way you're building an understanding and not just memorizing what the correct answer is. You gotta trust me on this, but this will help you a lot when it comes time to review for your exam. And the review process is probably the most important section of this. So you're gonna rinse and repeat that process for every single section in Becker. Read the whole lecture, take notes, and then you're gonna do the skills practice, then do the multiple choice. Do that for every single module in each section. So go through all of R1 doing that. And then when you get to the simulations, stop and skip the simulations and move on to the next chapter. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I use the simulations as a way to basically kickstart my review. So if you think about it, simulations are essentially just full-blown application problems. Sorry, a little battery thing went on. So simulations are essentially just full-blown application problems where they want you to take an in-depth concept and apply it to essentially a real-world situation. It's not just a multiple choice question. It's like, okay, here's actual numbers. I want you to do something with them. Now, if you don't truly understand what you learned, you won't be able to do the simulation. And that's a good thing because when you have to go back and review, you're reviewing from an understanding perspective and not just a memorization perspective that you would be with multiple choice. So with that being said, I would suggest going through all the lectures, all the skills practice, and all the multiple choice for every single section first, and then save all the simulations up for the end, probably, I think it's 8 chapters worth. You'll have 8 chapters worth of simulations. Do those all at once as the start of your review process. Once all of those simulations are done, and I'll skip over to my computer in a second once I'm done explaining this portion, I would suggest taking a couple of the self-generated multiple choice quizzes and do those until you can get about a 60 to 70% on them, and then you'll switch over into your first mock exam. So I'll switch over onto my computer right now and we'll walk through the mock exams and the scores I got on those and how I felt about it and how those correlate to the actual exam. Okay, so we're in REG right now in Becker, And let's scroll down to the simulated exams and click the report. As you can see, I got a 58% overall on my first mock exam, which obviously isn't that great, but let's look at the score breakdown. So I got a 68% on the first one and on the multiple choice, and I got a 47% on the simulations. So the multiple choice, I was content with that score because it's damn near 75, and a lot of the questions I felt were just kind of weird. But basically, if you can see here, the lowest score I got was a 34%, and the rest of the scores were fairly decent aside from these 60s. So based off this, I knew that I needed to study R1 more, R8 and R3, which were my 3 lowest percentages in there. I usually try and get above a 75% per section. That way I feel the most prepared for my exam. And if I'm below that, I'll make sure to review it by doing more multiple choice questions for those sections. For the simulations, it's kind of a toss-up because you don't know what you're gonna get on the exam, so there's no point in really hammering down on certain simulation types. I definitely practice the ones that have more documents and like source documents that you have to look at, and get really good at managing those, because most of the time on the exam you'll see those really lengthy problems, but they aren't that difficult. It's just they want to intimidate you with all the source documents, but if you really look at it at the end of the question, like, okay, that wasn't that bad, it was just kind of time consuming. So let's go back out, let's look at the second mock exam. So keep in mind, I got a 58 on the first one. Now you think I would do better on the second one. No, I got the exact same score. So I got another 58% after reviewing for about a week. And I actually did worse on the multiple choice questions this time, but I did a lot better on the simulations. So I got 55% and a 60%. You can see the score breakdowns. Again, if I got under a 75, I went back and hammered the multiple choice on those sections. And then let's look at my final mock exam. That one, no. All right, here it is, the 47%. So I got 59 on multiple choice and I got 35 on the simulations. Now, 59, again, same issue with the multiple choice. Sometimes they're just difficult and you just kind of have to accept that. This was after a lot of reviewing, but again, I was rushed. I think a lot of you will have more time to take your test than I did. But then we look at the simulations and I got a 35%, and these are weighted equally. So multiple choice and simulations are broken down 50-50. So a 35% would count for, I can't do the math in my head right now, but basically they're weighted equally. The 35% screwed me because I missed out on a lot of points there. I basically only got 17% contributed to my overall score from that. And the other 30% came from my multiple choice questions. So if we look here, we see a 0 out of 24, a 0 out of 10, and then I got 20 out of 40 total correct. And that's because one of these simulations was really stupid and it referenced old tax law and it didn't clarify that. So I completely bombed that simulation. Another one, I messed up the format just by not paying attention. And the point is, you may make these same silly mistakes. Don't beat yourself up over it. Just whenever you go through a mock exam, maybe take your exam in the morning, give yourself a break, walk away from it, eat some lunch, hang out. And then once you come back refreshed and ready to review, go through and look at every single question in that mock exam, review it and understand it. And you should be good to go. So that's my methodology for going through mock exams. Hopefully that helps. And I'll switch back over to the just full screen now with my face. Okay, so now that we're back off of the computer and just face-to-face again, let's talk about the next portion of this video. And I just want to address it really quickly, but it's how I overcame my burnout and my lack of motivation when I was taking this test. I think this applies not only to the CPA exam, but to life in general. I know working full-time, it's really fucking hard to try and study for your exam. So I completely understand burnout. I understand coming home tired from a long day of work, but it's really important that you get through these tests as early as you possibly can in your life, because you'll never be less busy than you are right now. Your workload's always going to ramp up as you gain more experience, regardless of what level you're at. Just as an example, There are several people I work with at the company I work with, and they have children. They're super busy and they don't have any time to study for their exam without sacrificing somewhere else in their life. Now, personally, if I was in their position, I don't know how I would pass that exam. And I'm being completely honest. If I had children, I would just want to spend my time with my kids when I got home, and I wouldn't want to go sit in my office and try and study. So there's one source of motivation. If you're young like me, or maybe you don't have children yet, use that as your motivation that one day you want to be able to play with your kids and not be worrying about this stupid exam. That's necessary for your career, but you don't want to spend the thousands of hours studying for it down the road when you have kids or you have other things you want to do with your life other than sit down and just stare at your computer after a long day of work. So, quick steps to overcome burnout. One, you need to remind yourself of why you're doing what you're doing. And I go way more in depth in this in the video that I'll put in the description. Again, that's just my video on motivation, so give that a watch after this video if you want. So I'll just break down the steps in it. One, you need to remind yourself why you're doing what you're doing, or else why are you doing it in the first place? You just forget that completely. Number two, you got to find motivation elsewhere in life, in progress elsewhere. So this CPA exam is definitely a marathon, and you need to find progress in the little sprints in your life. So maybe you want to read a book. That's physical progress that you can see. Maybe you want to go to the gym, lose some weight, work on your mental health somehow. You need to have little victories in your life in order to stay motivated for the large victory, because if you don't see any progress anywhere, it's going to be really taxing mentally. The third step is to break up the monotony in your day-to-day life. Now, I described this in my video as maybe you really limit yourself during the week and you say, I don't want to go out to eat and meet up with friends and grab a beer because that's just not what I do during the middle of the week. Now, I understand not everyone drinks alcohol and that example may not be relevant in your life, but you can still apply it elsewhere. Maybe you want to go to Disneyland in the middle of the week if you have a pass and meet up with your friends and only go for an hour or two, but it's refreshing. It's something out of the ordinary, and that's the whole point about it, is you need to break up the day-to-day grind with something that's more interesting, something that lets you relax mentally and breaks up the grind. Whatever that is, it's different for everybody, but do it. Just think about it and think, what do I really enjoy doing? And try and do that one thing a couple times a week, and I guarantee you it'll help put you in a better place mentally and help you feel more refreshed when you're trying to grind through this exam and grind through work and life in general. Now, the fourth step is just know when to give yourself a break. I was really bad about this with this exam, but I was really good about it in other exams. If you've just studied for 10 hours, there's a very high probability that you can't do anything productive for the remaining hours in the day. So you should probably stop, take a deep breath, maybe go for a walk, exercise, have some social interaction. If it's the afternoon, get out and get some sun so you're not just sitting staring at your computer all day in your room or office. Point is, get up, move, give yourself a break, and relax. Your CPA exam isn't going anywhere, and it'll definitely be there when you get back. So at some points, you just need to say, okay, I've done enough. I'll be fine. Let's take a break for the weekend. Take a 3-day break. Maybe come back refreshed after you've had a really good mental break and you feel that you can tackle this again. It's completely okay. You don't just have to beat this until it's dead. Now, with all that being said, I want to reassure everyone watching this video that you can absolutely 100% pass this exam. I know everyone in life has different circumstances pulling at them. I mentioned some of the things I struggled with at the beginning of this video, and I know that's absolutely nothing compared to some of the things that you guys are going through out there and are watching this. I've talked to plenty of people, coworkers, friends, people online, and I've tried to offer my advice. I'm definitely here to answer any questions you guys might have, or listen in the comments to any of the situations that you guys are going through, and I'll try and offer my guidance. But everyone has hard situations in life, and it's how you handle them that makes you the person that you are. So I know everyone goes through their own hard things. Don't take that out on anyone else. and don't criticize someone for maybe not having as hard of a situation as you, because you may not know their full story. Try and be sympathetic to everybody and everyone's situations, and just support everyone in their own processes. So if you have a buddy at work or just a random colleague that may be going through the CPA exam and they're a senior, or they haven't passed yet, and you're in a position like me where you've passed 3 exams and you just started working, don't give them crap for it, because they're probably not super happy that they're in their position, but that's them, that's their life. You gotta let them do them and respect that. Just focus on yourself. This also goes into the fact that your score does not mean shit. So I got a 90 on FAR, and the only reason I got a 90 is because I studied full time. I didn't have a job. I lived at home. My parents paid for everything, and I was very fortunate to be in that situation. I didn't have any financial pressure on me, and I really had no other pressure other than passing that exam. So yeah, I was able to get a 90. I probably could have gotten higher if I kept studying, but it's just the law of diminishing return. Like, there's no value, unless you want the Elijah Watts sales reward or something, there's no value in getting that high of a score, because at the end of the day, we're all gonna be CPAs and we're all gonna have that same title. And if I pass with a 90, that's not nearly as impressive as someone working full-time, barely passing with a 75, because that person busted their ass way harder trying to do that while working full-time and deal with all that pressure than I did just by studying 8 hours a day for 4 weeks straight. At the end of the day, it's a great accomplishment no matter what, but everyone, again, has their own different circumstances, so please don't be proud of your score, celebrate it, but please don't try and use it as a way of comparing your intelligence to others. I've gotten a 90 and I've gotten a 78, and I can tell you I'm still the same person. It's just a difference in the amount I studied for it. I studied much harder for FAR, and I was way more focused than I was for REG, and there was a 12-point difference in my scores. It doesn't mean I'm any smarter or less intelligent. It just is what it is, and I still passed both. So that goes for you, that goes for everybody else. Be proud of your scores, be very proud of yourself when you pass, and if you don't pass, it's okay. Just keep pushing through and keep persevering. You'll be okay. I know I went through a lot of material in this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment down below. I love interacting with everyone who watches these videos, and I love helping you guys. It's really cool to get the nice comments on here saying, oh, you help so much. And it genuinely makes me feel really nice seeing that I'm actually helping people. So I don't make any money off these videos. I'm not using YouTube with these videos as a way to make money. I'm just doing it to try and help and share the experiences that I've encountered with my CPA exam process, and hopefully it makes an impact on someone out there, even if it's one person. Now, if this video helped, please feel free to, again, subscribe, drop a thumbs up, and comment down below. I'll read everything, so if you have any questions, just drop them. I'm sure I missed something. And then check out the links that I put in the description. They'll probably be to my video about FAR, where I passed with a 90, audit with an 83, and then my motivation video. And I'll also put the Becker versus mock actual exam scores, because a lot of people ask the question, is the actual exam as hard as the Becker mock exams? My answer is no. Becker's a lot harder. The exams are similar in difficulty, but Becker grades a lot more harshly than the actual exam does, even though we don't know the exact grading process. But the scores you get on the actual exam are usually much higher than what you get on Becker, so I'll drop that spreadsheet down below too. So thank you guys for watching. I know it was a long video, but I appreciate you guys sticking through the whole thing. And stay tuned for more videos. There's definitely gonna be one coming out for BEC very soon, and plenty of other videos on topics that I bet you guys aren't expecting. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.